This is by far the largest gate I've ever opened in my whole entire life. Have the mercy. All right, so a lot of you ask how I charge for jobs. This is a prime example. This thing is built out of 12-inch I-beam, 4-inch, at least 3/16, if not quarter wall square tubing on the top. We got some, looks like 12-inch by 3 down here, rec tubing, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, roughly, hanging on 2 pieces of 12-inch I-beam welded together on both sides. Well, hanging off of it over here, latching over here. I mean, incredible, huge. And we're here to propose a overhead situation because it's sagging a little bit. Because if you look here, won't even latch because it's sagging and it's not lining up right. But holy cannoli roly poly, that is just incredibly heavy. Beautiful view though up here. Wow, that thing will smash the toe if it falls off that hinge. It's a prime example of one of the reasons why I like to go look at jobs. One is the access. 2 is the lay of the land, kind of the same as like access, like just seeing what you have to deal with, turning around trailers, moving equipment, getting material. You know, you get more of a better idea, because 9 times out of 10, when customers take pictures, they take them close up, and like I had no idea this was like up on top of a hill. Like I had no idea what was outside the picture. Obviously, you can ask the customer to take different pictures further back, all this, that, and the other, but there's just something about going to look at stuff in person. I guess I'm kind of old school that way, but it's because you get more of a realistic idea of how long something's going to take. All that to say is, this is a prime example of why I'm glad I came and looked at this project, because it was simply in the email the customer said, this gate is sagging and it needs an overhead. He would like to put an overhead on the gate so it doesn't sag. Simple, right? Okay, I should just be able to say, okay, you know, it's going to take this long. Without thinking about it, just looking at these pictures, I'd say a day. Now that I'm here, and this job is about an hour from my house, so that matters also. And you got to remember the time that I'm taking to look at it right now too. Like that's something that a guy needs to account for. But that's kind of a bigger picture ordeal. All this to say, my point is after being here, I can see how this could take 2 days to do, simply because of the weight of the gate. I knew it was a big gate, but like just at a glance, like I don't know, because I mean, just at a glance, I mean, in the picture, I could have, you know, put 2 and 2 together. I could have studied these pictures more and just realized, oh, this is some heavy material. But I mean, again, there's something about looking at stuff in person, that depth perception, like seeing how thick material is. I mean, just there's a number of things that is just totally different when seeing stuff in person. So if you charge by the hour, like in my opinion, that's what I actually recommend, is charging by the hour when just getting started, because you're not sure how long stuff takes you because you don't have that much experience. So hour is the best way, in my opinion. But even after doing it for this long, like I've been welding for this long, I still am probably, I could quote this, but I'm probably going to do it by the hour, just because it's such a like out of the, it's not just a 4-inch brace with a 1 5/8, you know, gate, or a, you know, even a 2 3/8 or 2 7/8 gate. It's not just a entrance that I'm used to dealing with. This is literally like such a heavy situation that we're dealing with here that, I mean, it literally changes all the logistics. Like I'm sitting here studying, can I do this? Can I do that? What can I prefab at the house? What can I build here on the ground? What do I want to weld overhead? Like it all kind of depends on this situation and what material we're going to be using for starters, which I've got a list of questions, or a couple of questions that I need to ask the customer. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to kind of share with you what I go through and why I don't have like a clean answer all the time for, you know, what I charge for this, that, and the other. So like I said, I'm just sitting here studying this situation. We are kind of, see how this is like up on a thing. We're kind of sitting at an angle here, like it's just all things to consider. So the couple of things I've racked my brain is, so this is two 12-inch I-beams welded together. Same over here, two 12-inch I-beams welded together. And what I've come to is I think I want to cut them off clean at the top, put a plate on, you know, probably a 1/2 inch, 3/8 or half. 3/8 would probably be plenty, but I think I've got some 1/2 inch flat at the house that I'll probably use. Cap those. Depending on, this is one of the questions that I have for the customer, but I'm going to recommend using what's already here. So essentially 40 foot of, just shy of 40 foot of 12-inch I-beam, because these are roughly 6 or 7 tall, these uprights already. So to get my 15-foot clearance, I need to add 9 foot to each one, roughly. A little less technically. Figure material, I always figure more just to make sure. So call it 9 and 9, it's 18 and 18. Now I rounded up to 40. You see why I rounded up to 40. 10, 20, 30, 40 foot of I-beam. And then what I'm going to recommend to him is 12-inch square tubing along the top. At least 3/16, if they even make a 3/16 in 12-inch, I don't know. But anyway, if he doesn't want to spend that money on the material, we can talk about still capping these and then potentially coming up with, like, you know, welding 8-inch and then going with 8-inch over the top. That's another option. But with as heavy as this gate is, I'm going to highly recommend to him to use what the stuff is hanging off of, even though we're putting it overhead. But again, I mean, it's custom. I've never built a gate like this, never installed a gate off a 12-inch I-beam, never built a gate this heavy. It's just all things to consider. So all the more reason for me, because of my lack of experience with this exact project, to charge by the hour. But the thing you can do when you're quoting customers is you can say, my hourly rate is X per hour, and I think it'll take us roughly a couple of days. A day to 2 days, depending on how this goes. In this particular situation, this customer he's informed me that he has a skid steer for us to work with, so that's good to know. I don't have to worry about equipment. He's got a piece of equipment here, but we will have to think about the height situation. So do you need to build a stinger for your skid steer? Do you need to rent a stinger? Do you need to, I mean, you know what I mean, to get up high enough to set your top rail on? That's a whole another deal of, so far I've just told you my plan of putting plates on and putting the, you know, extending them. Well, am I going to build it first and then stand it up, or am I going to add on? I think I just want to add on because I haven't put a level on these yet, which is another reason I'm still here and why I like to sit here and study these things for a while. Because if these aren't level or whatever, from my fabrication experience, it's going to be better for me to add to each individual post. And then if I need to level something, because those are in the ground pretty good. I don't know what they did to put those in the ground, because this looks like some hard ground around here, which I really don't know, but just based off of the land and the area and things you can see, you can potentially, I don't know what they're in. They seem to be in the ground solid, so I'm not going to be able to move them much is what I'm saying. But I can, whenever I add my post, I can fudge that to well, may not actually fudge it. May not fudge it, because now that I'm thinking about that, that may not be the best. But depending on how far it's off, you may need to do some happy mediums and whatnot. So all that to say is, in my mind, I feel like you're safer to just add on and then set the top deal on, the overhead on. So yeah, real time right now, you're seeing me study a project, and that's what I would recommend for. So in your case, if you've never built a 8-inch overhead entryway, I would recommend charging by the hour, depending on where you're at. Obviously depends on how much per hour. I've made a couple of videos of hourly rate for, you know, a contract welder like this. You got mobile setup, anywhere from $65 to $100, $150 an hour. Like, it just depends on where you're at. Like, there's not a, I honestly don't know the way to come up with the hourly rate. I just know that that's like that's the going rate nowadays. Whenever I started welding, mobile welding, working on drilling rigs, they were paying guys $45 to $50 an hour. You know, we're a little bit later in the times went by, things have went up in cost. So now the minimum rate I ever hear about is roughly $60 an hour. So depending on your experience, depending on if you need to get experience, that's all the more reason to, you know, lower your rate just to get experience. And tell the customer all that stuff. So anyway, if you don't have experience with something, I recommend charging by the hour just to get the experience, and then just tell the customer what you think it may take, and be open with them about the fact that it may take longer. But I can't stress enough going to look at a project and or studying as much as possible about literally putting yourself, visualizing yourself doing something to get a real grasp on how long it's going to take you. Of course, how long something's going to take is going to depend on how much help you have, whether you have help or not. Are you doing it by yourself? If you actually need help, like there's just all these things to consider. So fire is another issue. Like there's a bunch of dry grass around here right now. So I've also thought of, I don't really necessarily want to come do this on a dry day. This is actually something I could do during a muddy day because we're on gravel. There's that stuff that comes into play too. Which I thoroughly enjoy doing this, logistics, you know, I think I've said that before. But anyway, yeah, I hope this was somewhat helpful. We're constantly building courses for the AROSS Welding Trade School, and this is one course that we've talked about. We've actually talked about this quoting jobs in the pipe fence course. I don't remember exactly what all we talked about, but and it wasn't like a as in depth as we want to go with a totally different course about quoting jobs, like a business course. All that to say is there is some information in the pipe fence course about how to quote jobs and stuff, and part of that information is, you know, depending on your experience, charge by hour to get experience. And then we went into more elaborate stuff about quoting stuff, you know, depending on your situation. But anyway, all that to say is we intend on having a course that goes into more detail, and maybe even offering one-on-one consultation with me, so I can hear your situation and kind of advise you based off of my experience to kind of get you going and feel more confident in, you know, starting your welding business. So just keep that in mind. Keep an eye out on the AROSS Welding Trade School, or get on the email list or the community text number. You can go to my website, AROSSWELDING.com, and get on the email list there, or you can text. What word do I want to choose? You can just text me. Just say, hey, I want to get on a list, or I want to be notified whenever you have a business course available, or whatever. You can just text me that to 405-643-7176, and we will notify you whenever a course comes available, or any other news that we may have. So anyway, like I said, I hope it was helpful. I'm gonna sit here for a couple more minutes and study, and head on back to the house and tend to some things I need to do there at the house. Get in touch with this customer, let him know my thoughts, and see if we sell the job or not, you know? See if he still wants us to do it after everything we've learned today. So hope you all have an awesome weekend, and remember, learn something every day.